Welcome to BALLBUSTERS Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. To support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, this is going to be a slightly less interactive show than usual BALLBUSTERS, as it's going to be an absolute pummeling, a bloodbath, a slaughter of a lot of the heliocentric priests that like to think they are at the tip of their heliocentric spear. So the only current BALLBUSTER we have on the show is Quantum Eraser. How you doing, QE?
Ahoy hoy!
Hello. So I've had the pleasure of this presentation, albeit in part, not full, from Quantum Eraser earlier on in the week, and off the back of what I saw, I decided to plug it a lot more than I would normally. So BALLBUSTERS has had quite a lot of, well, hopefully, had people sharing the stream that was put out 2 days ago, ready for this show, and the advert and such, because I think it does need to be laboured and pushed when you've got a nice juicy T-bone to dig into, if you know what I mean.
I wholeheartedly agree.
So fill us in then, John. What's the score? What are we going to see here? Or should we launch straight into it? I mean, could be a long presentation.
It could be, and I don't want to poison the well because they're going to poison it all by themselves. So we have a presentation that was done. It was a video by LK. You guys know him. I don't. I think he was in the circuit or around the circuit some time ago, and I'm not that familiar with him. But anyway, he held a video presentation on his channel, and there was, you know, the heliocentric priest. The new priest now is Professor Dave. He's coming to grace our community, and then we had Soundly and the Rumpus. And Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy. And the couple, I think it was McToon. He's a small player. But I was kind of surprised. It was fortunate because I'm not subscribed to LK. Somebody sent me the video. And I think it was Ranty who sent it over Skype. And I was just screwing around. I said, I'll check it out. And oh my goodness, it was like Christmas. Wait till you hear this, people.
So what should we bring in at first, you or the video? Should we just launch straight into the first clip?
Yeah, go ahead and show and play from 7:38 and stop at 9:22, please.
Also goes back a lot further. I'm actually familiar with people, you know, in the sort of fundamentalist Christian circles, having these same kind of arguments, which is actually, I've noticed, a really common trait in Flat Earth. There's a lot of the arguments I'm familiar with from there, and I'm sure, you know, Rumpus, you'll probably be able to back that up. Yeah. It's transferred over into Flat Earth, even by people who, you know, don't claim any affiliation to any kind of god or gods.
I'm the resident theist on the panel, by the way.
Yes.
Oops.
No, but it's good because you're not a fundamentalist Christian who puts out all these terrible anti-science arguments, you know what I mean? That's the crowd that's coming from, you know, the young earth creationists.
Yeah, you're not a young earth creationist, are you, Stanley?
I am not a young earth creationist, no.
Right.
I am a Christian, but not a young earth creationist.
Okay, thank goodness for that, so we can avoid that.
You can put me in the same camp, too.
Right,
oh,
excellent.
true,
So
yeah.
that's good because that's.
Oh my God, it's spreading. I'd like me too.
I'm actually. I guess I would self-label as a old Earth creationist.
You're not that old.
But God is.
Losing the plot here. So, again, not sure if Dave is really familiar with this, but as everybody else in the panel will know, the thing that's cropped up most recently is this attempt to dissect George Musser's article. when he used the phrase "snapping the wand in two," which is, obviously
In the Scientific American,
completely
wasn't it?
misinterpreted by.
In the Scientific American, he published that, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'll get you back up.
Let me know.
Yeah, you're up.
Yeah, snapping the wand in two, the George Musser article, which was obviously completely misinterpreted by who? You clowns. That's who misinterpreted it. So what we got here from Al K, let's just summarize. We got 3 stereotype fallacies, 1 anecdotal fallacy, 3 baseless ipsy-dixit bare assertion fallacies. Sounds like they harbor some disdain for young Earth creationists, with at least 2 self-confessed creationists on the panel. That should be lovely. Ironically, it is you fundamentalist globetards with all the anti-science arguments, which will be demonstrated throughout this presentation. So the obvious theme here is bash young Earth creationists, flat earthers, and establish their fairy tale gravity. And okay, what's a fundamentalist Christian, pray tell? Go ahead and continue 922 to 1021, please.
So it's a kind of talking point now, but then looking at it from the other point of view, it is also contentious in the sense, we do use, essentially the Newtonian aspect for pretty much everything on a day-to-day basis. But we're also looking for ways to reconcile what we do every day with things at different scales, like large scale, very small scale, quantum, etc. So there's still a bit to learn about it, and lots of research going into it. So it's still something that it's not really a settled thing. We've got our the things that we agree upon at the moment, but it's not a fully settled thing. So even outside of the whole flat Earth stupidity, you can still argue that it's a little bit contentious. Is that okay with everybody? You can agree with that?
Yep.
Right.
Okay, I've got you up again.
Thank you. By the way, what in the world is the Newtonian aspect? And I sure like everyone agreeing with them. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Oh, it's settled all right. You've just exposed yourselves as a mindless wiki parroting bum sniffer. That's what you collectively. Let's start off here with the Newtonian train wreck. From Professor Shankar, Chair, Professor of Physics at Yale. Listen closely. The laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. You don't have separate laws for big and small things. From Richard Feynman, the discovery of quantum mechanics first, and then in the behavior of light, and then in the behavior of matter, finally culminating in 1926 with a full equation of quantum mechanics, which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right. Let me say that one more time. The laws of motion of Newton were not right. Again, from Professor Shankar, Chair of Physics at Yale. All right, so today we're going to shoot down Newtonian mechanics and Maxwell's theory. We're like the press. We build somebody up only to destroy them. Again, Professor Shankar. First, I want to tell you what goes wrong with Newtonian mechanics. The double slit experiment is a problem. That's what puts the nail in the coffin for Newtonian physics. Here comes the cowbell. Ready, clowns? So we have a double slit experiment with a Newtonian particle, an electron. We close one slit and fire a bevy of electrons, and we get 10 hits at point A. We close that slit and open the other slit and fire a bevy of electrons, and we get 8 hits at point A. The Newtonian prediction would be if we fired the same bevy of electrons with both slits open, we must get 18 hits at point A. Well, what do we get? We get a big fat 0. And what does that mean? Well, Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale, what does that mean? That is the end of Newtonian physics. So, in relation to Newtonian or classical mechanics, listen, every time you see this classical, right, there, it's just code for Newtonian. So, what did these people mean by shoot down, the nail in the coffin, destroy? That is the end of. And the laws of motion of Newton were not right. What's that mean? BALLBUSTERS, what is particularly confusing about all these? You're pulverized right here, clowns. But guess what happens? This is the mindless retort, right? This is the last port in the BALLBUSTERS storm. Quantum mechanics doesn't apply to big things, QE. Right? How many times have we heard that? If you haven't, you will. Let me go back to the beginning. Let me say this again. The laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. Here's the important part with your appeal right here, okay? You don't have separate laws for big and small things. Do you understand that now? That's rhetorical, you don't. From LabQuick's 2011 Experimental Non-Classicality of an Indivisible Quantum System in Nature, our results illustrate a deep incompatibility between quantum mechanics and classical physics. That's red, Newtonian mechanics, that cannot in any way result from entanglement. From the original paper, Bulletin of the American Physical Society, late last year, Bruckner and Kloffler showed that it does not matter how many particles are around or how large an object is, quantum mechanics always holds true. The reason we see our world as we do is because of what we use to observe it. The human body is just a barely adequate measuring device. Quantum mechanics does not always wash itself out. But to observe its effects for larger and larger objects, we would need more and more accurate measurement devices. We just do not have the sensitivity to observe the quantum effects around us. So the current record holder for quantum interference is 10,000 atomic mass units from Physical Chemistry, Chemical Physics in 2013. From O'Connell, the quantum ground state and single phonon control of a mechanical resonator from Nature. A metal paddle 30 micrometers long, that's trillions of atoms. A team of scientists have succeeded in putting an object large enough to be visible by the naked eye into a mixed quantum state of moving and not moving. So goodbye, Newton, and bye-bye to the entire panel's crackerjack box science acumen. Thanks for agreeing with LK. I appreciate that. Priceless. And psst, we already knew. Continue from 1021. Stop at 1255. You don't have to show it.
Shout out to James Mays for smashing the super chat. Who says smash the super chat? Thank you very much.
So I'm going to kick off by asking you each in turn to just do like a really quick, short answer. Basically, when I say your name, I want you to describe what gravity is in your own words in the most concise way that you can do that, without any, without too much technical jargon. Just one at a time. And Rumpus, like I said, concise, right?
God, you really give me a hard time, aren't you, Al?
Well, you know why. So actually, Rumpus, we'll start with you just in case. So a quick, concise explanation of gravity.
Right. Well, gravity is what we see in this world and our 3D world as the mass attracting mass, and we can see that on a local scale, like dropping a banana or something, and in the Cavendish experiment, where we can actually see the attractive force between two masses in an experiment. We can measure this, and we can determine that this follows Newton's law, universal gravitation, which he postulated in 1670 odd in Principia, and he then realised that the am I going too slowly already?
I'm just laughing. We're now getting the history of gravity in a
Right, I just wanted to talk. Well, okay, perhaps I'm saving everybody else talking this stuff. Perhaps you don't need to repeat this. I suppose it's an intro. Yes, you've given me an intro. I'm afraid, Al. So
no, it's not an intro. It was a quick one. This was a
sorry. Okay, I mean
this is you being quick.
I'm going to speed up. So I'm going to speed up.
I'm
going to speed up. I've set the foundations. I'm going to move quickly now. Yes, and so in that inverse square law, which means it's the attraction between two masses dependent on the two masses, the product of the two masses, and the reciprocal of the square of the distances, and that works. And even now, with the modifications that Einstein came up with in 1916, 15, with the general theory of relativity, those equations are still valid. And George Musser in his article was not denying those that force was valid, except in extreme circumstances.
Right.
And
stop.
Oh,
right.
I've
You're going way too far now.
Sorry.
So
okay.
You're
Well,
preempting the rest of the conversation for.
I'll try and finish it in 10 seconds then. And Einstein proposed that the curvature of Earth in this 4D world manifests itself in our 3D world as a force. So anybody who says it isn't a force, which is what you'll find all over the internet, in our 3D world, it is a force, but its origins are not as a force. It's an inertial force, a bit like centrifugal force. Finished.
Wow. All right, the rumpus. Gravity is what we see in this world, in our 3D world, as mass attracting mass. Well, mass attracting mass is not gravity. From Martin Rees, astronomer royale with cheese, esteemed British cosmologist and astrophysicist. From University of Princeton Press, what causes gravity and mass? These questions still baffle all of us. So, I don't know, Rumpus. I don't know where you're getting your information from. According to Professor Rees, does mass attracting mass cause gravity? Nope. And to cover all bases, according to Professor Rees, does space-time cause gravity? Nope. B. Cavendish never performed a scientific experiment. He had no viable dependent or independent variables. Number 2. And so in that inverse square law, which it means it's the attraction between two masses, dependent on the two masses, the product of the two masses, and through the reciprocal of the square of the distances, and that works. And even now with modifications that Einstein came up with in 1916, 15, with the general theory of relativity, those equations are still valid. And George Musser in his article was not denying those, that force was valid except in extreme circumstances. A, Einstein didn't modify Newton's universal law of gravitation. B, scientific theories never modify natural laws. C, Einstein's field equations make zero reference to Newton's non-law. D, George Musser did, clearly and explicitly, say that it was the curvature of space-time and not an invisible force that gives rise to gravitational attraction. How many times have we been through this? Let's go through it again. George Musser, Scientific American, November 2015. Einstein created his general theory of relativity, which provides our modern understanding of gravity, with the express purpose of expunging non-locality from physics. Isaac Newton's gravity acted as a distance as if by magic, and general relativity snapped the wand in two by showing that the curvature of space-time and not an invisible force gives rise to gravitational attraction. I mean, a fourth grade reading comprehension can reconcile this, right? 3. From the rumpus, Einstein proposed that the curvature of Earth in this 4D world manifests itself in our 3D world as a force, but anybody says it isn't a force, which is what you'll find all over the internet in our 3D world. It is a force, but its origins are not as a force, but it's an inertial force, a bit like centrifugal force. Finished. Thank the Lord. A. Einstein proposed the curvature of the Earth? That's what you said. Might have been a little mix up there, but that's what you said. And that it was a force? No. B. Einstein never proposed, said, or remotely implied that gravity was a force. C. The rumpus. It is a force, but its origins are not as a force. It's an inertial force. This is the epitome of triple speak, folks. This whole thing is wrong. 3 times. He got the hat trick. They're all wrong. First, it's not a force, Einstein. Its origins were that of a force, Newton, and it's not a force, Einstein. So this whole thing is train wreck. And D, this is quite troubling. In this 4D world manifests itself as in our 3D world? What in the world? Rumpus, you do understand that you're implying 2 different worlds here, right? Where's this 4D world you keep on talking about? Show start at 1332 and stop at 1506 with Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, Mr. Cygnus Octaris.
Yeah, something about gravity, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, here, let me put my camera on so you can see this beautiful Michigan summer day.
Oh, ha ha.
All right. Now, when I move my phone from one direction to the other, it switches from portrait to landscape. That's because it's undergoing a constant downward acceleration of 9.81 meters per second. That's what we call gravity. Now, Newtonian gravity is used to design bridges. It's used to determine flight characteristics, the orbits of planets and moons. It works just fine. It is the how, it is the what of what gravity does. Einstein came out and described the theory of general relativity that gives us a better idea of why gravity does that. It's the warping of space-time. Now, unlike Newton, who thought that this was just an intrinsic property of matter, Einstein actually attributed it to something. So it was no longer a magical effect. So Einstein, of course, broke the wand of Newton, and we all understand exactly what he was talking about. But the flat earth is trying to use an evocation fallacy to use a different meaning of that to somehow say that Einstein replaced Newton. So basically, that's all I have to say about it. It's, my gravity is the fact that my phone flips.
Okay.
Okay, we got Bob Booby, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, Mr. Cygnus Octaris. I got this yesterday off of Ranty's show. It's pretty funny. He's trying to say Sigma Octantis, so too funny. So he gave us this little spiel right here. Let's go through them. So Booby, when I move my phone from one direction to the other, it switches from portrait to landscape. That's because it's undergoing a constant downward acceleration of 9.81 meters per second, and that's what we call gravity. So A, it's 9.81 meters per second squared, not 9.81 meters per second. B, the 9.81 meters per second squared is in effect. Whenever you say gravity, Bobby, you immediately invoke a cause, either mass attracting mass or space-time bending. Therefore, you have the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. So your syllogism, move your phone, the display switches from portrait to landscape, therefore gravity. Friggin' Rhodes Scholar. 2, now, Newtonian gravity is used to design bridges. It's used to determine flight characteristics, the orbits of planets and moon. It works just fine. Really? 3, Ipsy Dixit, baseless bear searchers fallacies. We need to see evidence of this. We've been hearing this for years with no evidence. They just say it. Number 3, Einstein came out and described the theory of general relativity that gives us a better idea of why gravity does that. It's the warping of space-time. Scientific theories don't describe, they explain. Einstein didn't describe an explanation. Okay? Number 4, now unlike Newton, who thought that this gravity was just an intrinsic property of matter. No. Newton thought the exact opposite and stated that if you did think it was an intrinsic property of matter, you should be institutionalized. In a letter to Dr. Richard Bentley on February 25th, 1692, Isaac Newton says, "'Tis inconceivable that inanimate brute matter should, without mediation of something else, which is not material, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must be if gravitation, in the sense of Epicurus, be essential and inherent in it. And this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me. That gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into." He's talking about you here, Bob. "Gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws, but whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left to the consideration of my readers." These are the important parts. Innate, gravity, innate, inherent, and essential. Inherent with your intrinsic there, booby. So you couldn't be more wrong. What a surprise. Booby. Now, unlike Newton, who thought that this was just an intrinsic property of matter, Einstein actually attributed to something, though it was no longer a magical effect. So Einstein, of course, broke the wand of Newton. So, within the boundaries of your erroneous train wreck here, Newton attributed gravity to matter. That's physical. Einstein attributed gravity to space-time. That's non-physical concept. So, Bob, physical matter is magical and concepts are not, eh? Bob, do you reminisce with strangers? That's rhetorical. Number 5, Bubby, but the flat earth is trying to use an avocation fallacy to use a different meaning of that to somehow say that Einstein replaced Newton. So basically, that's all I have to say about it. It's, my gravity is the fact that my phone flips. Hey, reification fallacy. Flat Earth is an inanimate object, Bubby. It has no volition. It doesn't try. And what the fuck is an avocation fallacy? You've been saying this for about 3 or 4 weeks, man. What is this? Avocation. An avocation is a hobby. How can a hobby be a fallacy? And what do hobbies have to do with this? See, my phone flips, therefore Bob's gravity. I mean, this is childlike nonsense. Continue. You could show this from 1506, stop at 1613.
Let's do a couple of quick shout outs. So shout out to MC Universe, who says, "Nathan, show rules. Beware of haters and co-intel pro." Thank you very much for the super chat, MC Universe, and also Yuya, who sends a lollipop. Thank you very much indeed.
My gravity is that I can calculate the trajectory of a bullet. And that works just fine in our world. And the other day I did a video on Quantum Eraser and his efforts to talk about gravity not being a force, where he cherry picked about 6 different scientific papers. Every single one of those papers, 2 paragraphs later, said that unless an object is moving close to the speed of sound or is on the atomic level, Einsteinian gravity reverts to Newtonian gravity for all intents and purposes. So I'm very comfortable with Newton. Newton's just fine. Einstein just tells me a little bit more about why it happens. But I don't use field equations to figure out how much of a bullet drop there's going to be at 600 yards. I use Newton. And guess what? I can hit a 4-inch rock at 600 yards. So that's all I have to say about it.
Shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchor, who says, "I approve that F-bomb." Right, you're up.
So, Bobby, this is going to be fun. The other day, I did a video on quantum eraser, moi, in his efforts to talk about gravity not being a force, where he cherry picked about 6 different scientific papers. This is 6 erroneous, ipsy-dixit, baseless, bare assertion fallacies. He didn't support any of this, and he doesn't even know what cherry pick means. None of these knuckleheads know. We're going to go through them, though. Number 2, every single one of those papers, 2 paragraphs later, said that unless an object is moving close to the speed of sound, or as on the atomic level, Einsteinian gravity reverts to Newtonian gravity for all intents and purposes. So, number 1, this is incoherent gibberish. The conclusion doesn't follow from its premise to begin with, so it's a non sequitur. But we're going to hold Bobby's feet to the fire here. So, B, 11 erroneous, baseless, bare assertion fallacies. We're going to take a look. So, everyone knows this one. This is George Musser, right, from Scientific American. And let's pull out a keyword here so we'll go through this quite quickly. So, copy, we're going to go here. We're going to go into each of these and see if his claims hold true. So, let's go find, let's go, okay, snap. Okay, here's the citation that I took from this paper. Einstein, general relativity, snapped the wand in 2, right? Showing that space-time, not an invisible force, right? So he said 2 paragraphs. So 1, 2. We're going to highlight this. We're looking for subatomic and atomic particles, the speed of sound, and Einstein reverting to Newton. So I'm heading through here. Nothing on Newton. Nothing on subatomic particles or the speed of sound. So there's nothing there. So that's 0 for 1, booby. The next one is from Caltech. Einstein came up with the theory of general relativity, 1915, the prototype of all modern gravitational theories. Its crucial ingredient involving colossal intellectual jump is the concept of gravitation, not as a force, but as a manifestation of the curvature of space-time. So let's take a look. We'll do a keyword here. It saves an enormous amount of time. Just be patient with me. Let's go paste. Okay, okay, here we go. The prototype of all modern gravitational theories. Its crucial ingredient involving colossal jump is the concept of gravitation, not as a force. So this is my citation, right? We're going down to 2 paragraphs from that. Okay, what we're looking for here, again, is some atomic and atomic particles, the speed of sound, and Einstein reverting to Newton. So let's go with, let's see if we can find these Einstein field equations, Newton, in which a body of previous G, constants G, is Newton even mentioned in here? No. Some atomic particles? No. The speed of sound? Oh, there's Newton. Einstein also replaced the Newtonian law of motion by the statement that free test particles move along geodesics. I want to spend some more time here, not today, but Bubby, it says nothing. Oh, and this constant G, this G, big G, doesn't occur in Newton's universal law of gravitation, by the way. So you're 0 for 2 here. The next one is Brian Cox. This is a YouTube video. It's not a paper, so we can't go 2 paragraphs because there isn't a second paragraph. There's not a first one. Brian Cox, there isn't really a force of gravity at all. Again, George Musser, this was from Fat to Fat Earth, his video interview, so there's no second paragraph here. We all remember this one. Gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. The next one is Wikipedia. Let's go with 1915 here. Gravity is most accurately described by general theory of relativity proposed by Albert Einstein, which describes gravity not as a force. So let's go to their alma mater. Let's go ahead and find, is that the same one? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. So gravity is most, here's my citation. Let's go 2 paragraphs. It's this. Now remember what we're looking for. We're looking for Einstein reverting to Newton, subatomic atomic particles, and the speed of sound. Got quantum, no Newton, no speed of sound, no subatomic or atomic particles. Bubby, you're operating over. It's not looking good for you. In general relativity, gravity is not a force between masses. Let's go ahead. We'll use this one. Universe today. Setup. There you go. Thanks for your patience. That's not it. This is it. Okay. In general relativity, gravity is not a force between masses. This is my citation. 2 paragraphs down. Remember what we're looking for. Subatomic, atomic particles, speed of sound, or Newton. Oh, it says Newton. Einstein agreed with the amount of deflection agreed with Einstein and not Newton, so nothing in the context you were talking about. No subatomic particles, no speed of sound. Over. Oh, and by the way, I've been charged with changing this citation. For some reason, somebody said this, and I think, you know how they all work? They all gravitate, no pun intended, and they all just parrot this stuff. Oh, QE has modified this citation right here. Really? In general relativity, gravity is not a force between masses, right? That's what I said. Let's go back and check. In general relativity, gravity is not a force between... What did I do to this? Nothing. It's good. It's just like how it was written. So I don't know what the heck you guys are talking about. From MSU making shit up university. And by the way, Booby, you're still over, by the way. So, oh, this is a good one. Strictly, that'll stand out. So this is, let's get this up here. Find, paste, there we go. Strictly speaking, gravity is not a force in general relativity, right? That's my citation. So guess what we're going to do? Like Bob said, Bubby, we're going 2 paragraphs down. Okay, remember what we're looking for. Subatomic and atomic particles, speed of sound, or Einstein reverting to Newton. Let's go. So there's nothing in here on Newton. I don't see subatomic or atomic particles or the speed of sound. Still over there, Bubby. We're going to, oh, let's use this one, according. Yeah, according to. Let's go to physics.org or phys.org. See what they got here. It's not looking too good for you, Bubby. Find, paste. Okay. According to this theory, gravity is not a force. There you go. That's my citation. So we'll go down 2 paragraphs, like you said. Remember what we're looking for. Subatomic and atomic particles, the speed of sound, or Einstein reverting to Newton. So for most applicant gravity, okay. Gravity is best explained by Newton's law of universal gravitation. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Hold on one second. I want to make sure the speed of sound and no subatomic particles. We're good. Okay. First of all, this doesn't have any context with what you claimed. And gravity is best explained by a law? Whoa, 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 whoa. Laws don't explain. They describe. That's a big problem. Let's take a look up here. General theory of relativity, which remains the best means of describing. You see, people, scientific theories explain. They don't describe. Laws describe. They don't explain. So how can this be the best means of describing and Newton's law be the best means of explaining? This is nonsense, folks. And by the way, Bubby, you're still over. And we're getting a little long in the tooth here because we have 3 left. Not looking good for you. Okay, let's try this one. We'll go with the sun. This is from New Scientist. Paste. What the heck is going on here?
That doesn't look very good. Can't resize
Oh,
that.
they're doing Apollo 11 50th anniversary. Oh my God, they screwed this all up. Okay, hold on a second. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yeah.
So although Earth appears to be pulled towards the sun by gravity, there is no such force. That's my citation. Okay, 2 paragraphs down. It's not full, so we'll go here. Maybe this will get, hopefully. Aha, is that better?
That's perfect.
Okay, so we're on his second paragraph. Okay, we're looking for, remember, subatomic and atomic particles, the speed of sound, or Einstein reverting to Newton. Newton. No subatomic or atomic particles or the speed of sound. Bubby, you're still over, my friend. I think you got 2 left. Yes, you do. All right, let's go with Phys Libre Text. Let's use answer. Yeah, that should do it. Copy. Let's check this one. What are the chances you're going to be right out of the last 2? To support your claim. So here it is. Yep. The answer is that gravitation is not a force between 2 objects. That's my citation. So 2 paragraphs down. Remember, subatomic and atomic particles, speed of sound, or Einstein reverting to Newton. I'm looking for Newton. No Newton. No subatomic particles. And no speed of sound. All right, Bubby, last chance. Hyperphysics. Let's go with isn't. All right. Hyperphysics textbook. Sorry this is taking so long, folks, but I must do this. Hold their feet to the fire. This is my citation. He said 2 paragraphs down. I don't treat that. That's not a paragraph. That's not a paragraph. That's a paragraph, but that's connected to that. This is 2 paragraphs down. So let's see what we got here. Any subatomic or atomic particles, speed of sound, or Newton reverting to or Einstein reverting to Newton? No, nothing. 0. Nothing in here either. Let's just keep on going down just to make sure. Nope. 0. They're talking about the cosmological constant. Bubby, you, sir, are a stone cold liar. Not only a daft muppet, but a liar. Okay? Number 3, but I don't use field equations. This is going to be good. But I don't use field equations to figure out how much of bullet drop there is going to be in 600 yards. Yeah. You know why you don't? Because you couldn't tell the difference between your ass and a pipe wrench, number 1. And number 2, there are no known solutions for any of Einstein's field equations for 2 or more masses, folks. So between your bullet and the earth, you ain't going to use this. Why? Because according to you, that's 2 or more masses. Right? From your alma mater wiki, as the field equations are nonlinear, we're going to get to this here in a minute also. They cannot always be completely solved without making approximations. For example, there is no known complete solution for a space-time with 2 massive bodies in it, which is a theoretical model. Yeah, whatever. Do you understand what they're trying to tell you? That is general theory of relativity. The most prestigious theory of how the universe works that we have, right? In their paradigm, when you look up, is there 2 or more masses? If there is, you can't use Einstein's field equations. Ha! Unbelievable, folks. You guys didn't know this. You didn't do your due diligence. Huh? I know you did. P.S. You see that nonlinear phrase up yonder? This one? That means the law of superposition does not hold. That is, you can't arbitrarily add additional masses to any of his field equations. Ha! Ergo, Einstein's field equations describe a universe with only one mass or a completely empty friggin' universe. But that's helpful. P.S. Just like there are no married bachelors, there's no scientific theory equations. For goodness sakes, people. All right. Show start at 1625, stop at 1652. We have Professor Dave, first appearance.
Buddy. Dave, you're up next, please.
Okay, well, to paraphrase what has been said already, of course, I would describe gravity as the apparent attractive force between all matter by virtue of their ability to warp space-time. And that's our best model currently, general relativity, and hopefully that will be refined further if we can develop a quantum field theory for gravity. So who knows about gravitons and all that. As far as that interfaces with the flat Earth community, the two main problems are one is a
Okay, slightly too far.
That's okay.
No worries. You're up.
All right, Dave. An apparent force, so a not actual force? And space-time is bollocks. We just clobbered it to death just above. We'll take a couple pot shots at it down here. We'll kill it like 3 or 4 more times. Number 2, reification fallacy model there, Dave. You're not starting off very good. Number 3, gravitons, huh? Renowned physicist Freeman Dyson, interviewer. The quanta of gravity, graviton, is a fiction. Freeman Dyson, yes, you can study it mathematically, but you can never study it in the real world. Dude, you see the dichotomy here between mathematics and the real world? Just wanted to point that out to you. Hey, so general relativity, a non-scientific theory, can be refined further by quantum mechanics. Goodness, sir, you're a bozo. You're just talking out your ass. David Bohm, renowned professor of physics and personal friend of Einstein. And I quote, one could see that relativity and quantum mechanics, the two most fundamental theories of matter, really contradict each other. In the sense that relativity is local, it's causal, it's determined, it's continuous. And quantum mechanics is just the opposite. And from Caltech, The Final Contradiction. Love that title. General relativity and quantum field theory are incompatible. Your mindless drivel, Dave, is tantamount to using combustion reactions to refine phlogiston, for crying out loud. What an embarrassment. Oh, it's going to get worse for you. Show, you can continue from where you were at 1652 to 1746, please.
The problem with science communication in terms of the whole, is gravity a force or not? This is something that is partially semantics and just way above the head of any flat earther. It's theoretical physics, that conversation. And then the other is a linguistic miscommunication. It's just, the biggest thing I get is gravity is just a theory. And so that's just the problem. That's not just flat earthers. That's a lot of people mistake the colloquial connotation for theory with the scientific definition of theory. And that's a big problem that I try to address in my content, just helping them understand that theories are not uncertain. Yes, general relativity is a theory. We also know that it is true for sure. So, yep, that's all I got.
Very quick shout out to Shatner's Bassoon, who says, ballers are clinging to the old paradigm for dear life. Let's all move forward. Here's some Clover Nappy Fund money. Thank you very much, Shatner's Bassoon. You're up, QE.
Thank you. So, Professor Dave, the two main problems are one is a problem with science communication. Dave, science communication is receiving information concerning the scientific method. That's science. Not fairy tale gravity, or whether that fairy tale is a force or not. From Michael Crichton, testimony before the U.S. Senate Committee in 2005, science is nothing more than a method of inquiry. Wonder what that method is. B, generalized, sweeping, ipsy-dixit, baseless, bare assertion fallacy, stereotype, and ad hom fallacy above the head of any flat earther. The Triple Crown, hat trick. Congrats, Dave. And C, theoretical physics isn't science. The entire discipline lacks experiment. From the University of Rochester Physics Labs, the scientific method distinguishes science from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of systematic experimentation, right? So if you don't have experiment, and experiment distinguishes science via the scientific method, then you don't have science. Do you follow that? Number 2, the biggest thing I get is gravity is just a theory. Really? Where do you go to preschools? This is a simple anecdotal fallacy, and there is no scientific theory of gravity. And by the way, what's gravity? Number 3, general relativity is a theory. We also know that it is true, for sure. General relativity is not a scientific theory, Dave. You have no viable independent or dependent variables. That is hypothesis. Ergo, no science. You have to have hypotheses to have science, because you have to have experiment to have science. You can't have experiment without hypotheses, because experiments are hypothesis tests. You get it? I highly doubt it. And to top it off, basis ipsy-dixit bare assertion fallacy. You're not starting off too good here, Dave. Okay, quick stop. One quick cameo from McToon. We're gonna toe tag him quick. 1746, stop at 1801.
Excellent, thanks very much. MC Toon.
Yes, well, before Einstein, it was called spooky action at a distance, and that kind of comforts me like a warm blanket. And
You back on?
The real question is, what would comfort others exposed to your inane horse shit, McToon? Oh, by the way, McToon's already been toe tagged. See the toe tag section. But back to the subject. Just tattoo pretender clown doofus on your forehead and be done with it. From MIT Technology Review, Einstein's phrase, spooky action at a distance, has become synonymous with one of the most famous episodes in the history of physics, his battle with Bohr in the 1930s over the completeness of quantum mechanics, right? So let me ask you a question there, Mickey. Before Einstein, it was spooky action at a distance? How can that be when Einstein coined the phrase spooky action at a distance? A little space-time warping there or something? Thanks. Oh, and what's it? Before Einstein, it. What's it? Unbelievable. Okay, show this one. Start at 1925 and stop at 2050, please.
Okay. Soundly. You're up, my friend.
Well, I've just had 4 cheat sheets talk before me, so
No, but
let me try and I like putting it in my own terms, because I do tend to favor intuitive explanations as opposed to technical ones, because the technical aspects will never be appreciated by flat earthers. But basically, gravity is this set of observations that we see. Gravity is the name that we give to mass attracting mass. That we see this behavior happening in reality. We call it gravity. We could have called it anything else. But the fact that this behavior occurs, and I'm not calling it a force intentionally, because that's what they like to play games with that. But this behavior of reality occurs. We know it does. We're going to give it a name. We'll call it gravity. So to say it doesn't exist is just silly, because gravity does exist. We have real world, actual historical measurements that show that gravity attracts gravity. That's what happens. That's the behavior of our reality. But ultimately, the truthiness of any theory is determined by its practical application. And that's where MC Toon was talking about building bridges. If it works practically, then the theory is good enough for now. And that's basically how science works.
Okay.
Number one, this is soundly. I like putting it in my own terms because I do tend to favor intuitive explanations as opposed to technical ones, because the technical aspects will never be appreciated by flat earthers. So, hey, what's the relationship between your own terms and your explanation being intuitive? Aren't you begging the question right here? Leading to a non sequitur fallacy? Yeah, you are. Stereotype fallacy, flat earthers, and C. We have a diviner of complete strangers' appreciations in our midst. Must be those special Evo mind powers at work again, right? It's usually these GlobeTARDs that have this affliction. Hey, Soundly, have you considered carnival as a vocation? Soundly, you know gravity is the name that we give to mass attracting mass. Pretender clown Dunning-Kruger retard is the name we give to diviners of complete strangers' appreciations who employ 3 fallacies in a single sentence, Soundly. Just want you to know. B, mass attracting mass is not gravity. We already went over. Let's do it again. Martin Rees, astronomer royale with cheese, esteemed British cosmologist and astrophysicist. What causes gravity and mass? These questions still baffle all of us. So, according to Professor Rees, does mass attracting mass cause gravity? Nope. So I don't know where you're getting your information from, Soundly. You better check that. Oh, and define mass. We're going to see here in a few minutes that nobody on the panel, including you, has a friggin' clue. So to say it doesn't exist, it's just silly because gravity does exist. So, according to Soundly, gravity exists because it exists? Are you pre-law by chance? Stanford? Harvard? We say it doesn't exist because there is no scientific evidence of it. Gravity attracts, from Soundly again, gravity attracts gravity. That's what happens. That's the behavior of our reality. So gravity attracts gravity, Professor. Does magnetism attract magnetism? But ultimately, the truthiness of any theory is determined by its practical application. From Soundly. No, retard. The truthiness of scientific theories is determined by experiment, and experiment alone. Scientific theories explain the how and the why, the mechanism and the process. For example, germ theory. Scientific theories are the result of validated, confirmed scientific hypotheses that have been rigorously tested. From Chemistry About, a scientific theory summarizes a hypothesis or group of hypotheses that have been supported with repeated testing. From Quarks to Quasars, a scientific theory consists of one or more hypotheses that have been supported with repeated testing. From the University of Rochester Physics Labs, a scientific theory represents a hypothesis or a group of related hypotheses which has been confirmed through repeated experimental tests. P.S. You'd fail 5th grade general science. Pick stop, play from 27:36 and stop at 27:47. Got the rumpus again. You don't have to go anywhere.
Quick shout out to Earth is Seriously Flat. It says, happy Flatter-day, a perfect day to teach globe zombies. Thank you very much for the super chat.
But we need to stop physicists saying gravity is not a force, because they're thinking in the 4D world. They're saying in this 4D world, gravity isn't a force.
Hey. You're on?
Sorry, man, I was on mute. So this is quite troubling. Again, we're getting rumpus talking about this 4D world, and 4D world, mixing it up with the 3D world. This is going to be a player coming up over the next few minutes. So, established and demonstrated Wiki Discovery Channel parroting bum sniffers need to stop physicists saying things, right? And physicists aren't saying anything here. What you're talking about are theoretical physicists and astrophysicists. So that's what you should have delineated as. So this, like I said, this 4D world, where is that, pray tell? And why did you say this 4D world twice, right? Isn't that painfully redundant? Even though it doesn't exist? Shouldn't it just be world? So, okay, show this one. Play from 28:16, stop at 28:45.
People saying, physicists, I think incorrectly saying gravity is not a force, because they're talking about what's happening in the 4D world, whereas we want them to talk about what's happening in our 3D world. And so, unfortunately,
yeah, if I had any influence on physicists, I would try to persuade them to stop saying that gravity isn't a force. At least in the realm of public discourse, anything that causes a mass to accelerate should be considered a force.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Rumpus, you want to physically tackle physicists? Remember what we called these guys here. They're theoretical physicists and astrophysicists. So you want physicists to stop talking about the 4D world, wherever that la la land is, and convince them to start talking about our 3D world? Whoa here, Rumpus. They're thinking in the 4D world. They're saying in this 4D world and in our 3D world. Don't physicists live in the same world that we do, Rumpus? This is getting really troubling here. So, Dave, you want to censor what physicists say to the public? That sounds like true science to me. Who are you guys? The Dunning-Kruger bum-sniffing retard Gestapo? And define Elmer Fudd fanatical religious zealotry. Start at 29:20, stop at 30:30. You don't need to show them.
Demon, right? So
Right, but does it not give you the idea, though, that there is another world out there, and we are the projection is, I think, a reasonably expressive and understandable term that sort of manifests itself in our 3D world. And providing you've got that understanding, there's a sort of 4D world out there, and we're some sort of transformation of it in our world. I think if you understand that simple concept and hang on to that, then you can understand where in our world it's a force, and in where these theoretical physicists think of it not being force, because they're thinking in the clever 4D world.
Honestly, no, I don't think that sounds simple enough.
The Rumpus, you're trying to speak. You're trying to teach Shakespeare to people that haven't learned their words yet.
Yeah, Rumpus. We're clear. Crystal. In our 3D world, providing you've got that understanding, there's sort of a 4D world. Yep, he's got two worlds. Rumpus is saying two worlds. We already knew that. This is really troubling. Rumpus, I think I could speak for the panel and the entire audience and future audience that you need to be institutionalized immediately. And as clearly demonstrated earlier, and now, Mr. Shakespeare Soundly, he needs to force lobotomy and to share a rubber room next to you. Okay? For goodness sakes, people. Oh, this is, I love this one. Go ahead and show this. Go ahead and start at 30:38 and stop at 30:59, please.
Yeah,
completely. If you want a better way to describe gravity, do it the way I did, and that is as something that results in an acceleration. When that acceleration acts on a mass, it results in a force.
Well, other way around.
Yes, the other way around. Yeah, Bob, you got it around the wrong way.
The force acts on a mass and acceleration occurs.
Ready back up?
Yeah, so Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, Mr. Cygnus Octaris, to the rescue to save the day. He says, if you want a better way to describe gravity, do it the way I did. And that is as something that results in acceleration. When an acceleration acts on a mass, it results in a force. All you can see was cut, get the hook. Professor Dave, it's the other way around. Hey, Holmes, other way. The Rumpus, it's the other way around. Hey, Bob, you got it the wrong way. I thought that was priceless. It was really cool, Bob. I love you. Please chime in every chance you get. All right, show this. Just continue from that point from 3059. Stop at 3143, please.
Yeah, to me, that's a definition of a force, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the problem with flat earthers, is that they're so oblivious to even the most basic, fundamental scientific truths, like F equals ma. Like, I'll say F equals ma, and they'll go, "That's not true." Like, nothing could be more true than that.
I think half of them get it. I think half of them know that.
Push a rock or jump off the grid. Like, every motion proves F equals ma. So you're denying reality right now. So
yes, I regularly call them science deniers, is my favorite phrase, Professor Dave. They just deny objectively measured science and simple motion of things. And so.
Yep.
Thanks, Professor Dave. No, we're denying Dunning-Kruger bum-sniffing retards right now. You and your little buddy Rumpus there. Remember what Professor Dave said? Every motion proves F equals ma, right? So, number one, stereotype fallacy, which invariably leads to generalized, sweeping, ipsy-dixit, baseless, bare assertion fallacy. Number two, F equal ma isn't scientific. It's an undefined equation. Goodness, you're a dumb fuck. It's also incorrect. So remember what you said. Every motion proves F equal ma. Richard Feynman, the discovery of quantum mechanics first, and then in the behavior of light, and then in behavior of matter, finally culminating in 1926 with a full equation of quantum mechanics, which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right. Let me say that again. The laws of motion of Newton were not right. Done. Every word out of your pseudoscientific pish flaps, Dave, proves you're a bum-sniffing, indoctrinated retard. By the way, you'd fail 5th grade general science. So let's just sit back and enjoy this. I want you to start at 3314. We're going to speed it up a little bit because it's long. Stop at 3924. The question is, what is mass?
Talking about this, we are using a lot of the terms that I'm talking about. You know, these terms get used, but not necessarily are understood. And I think that's part of it. You know, so I'd like to just go over some of the terms with people and see what you've got to say about them. And I think it will form part of a general structure of saying, you know, ultimately, what do you mean by saying, you know, something bends space-time or mass attracts mass or whatever it might be. You know, obviously, in the course of the discussion, both descriptions have been used, mass attracting mass and the bending of space-time. We've also obviously mentioned the actual acceleration. And, you know, it could be said from the outside that there's some contradiction involved in going between mass, attracting mass, and the bending of space-time. So, to understand it a little bit better, could we start with just saying, what do you mean when you say mass? What is mass?
I can answer this.
Well, it's just I know there's more than one way of saying it. There's two essential answers to this that I hear, and I want to see where we all stand with it.
Well, I would say that mass is the resistance of something. The mass is when you apply a force to something, the acceleration you get from that object is the force divided by the acceleration that it returns is its mass. So it's inertial mass. Although you can start talking about the gravitational mass, but basically it's the inertial properties of something, its reluctance to be accelerated by a standard force. That's how I would define mass. So it's nothing to do with the number of atoms, nothing to do with the number of moles, nothing to do with its charge, nothing to do with its volume or density. It's just its resistance when a force is applied to it, in effect.
You just defined a thing.
Right, so does everybody agree with that particular way of stating it, or is there another way that anybody else wants to put across?
Certainly the concept of inertia has to be involved. I mean, anything without mass travels at the speed of light. So massive objects are things that don't, right? Their acceleration is proportional to the force applied on them.
So,
and then this idea, if you want to go, presumably Professor David gone about what actually gives things mass, and then we get into the Higgs boson, and also the virtual. But actually, most of the mass, for instance, of a proton is not actually the intrinsic mass of the quarks inside it, but actually the interactions, the virtual particles that are created as a result of fields between the quarks. It's a rather complicated idea, but these fluctuations actually create most of the mass, not the actual quarks. It's a bit weird.
So, how do you differentiate then between mass, as you're describing it, as basically a resistance, if you like, and inertial mass?
It's the same thing.
So, but inertial mass is usually used to describe something that's accelerating, is it not?
No, it could just be what it would do under a force. That's the definition. The inertial mass definition is the one that I gave. In other words, you can test what the inertial mass of something is by applying force and seeing what acceleration it responds with. That's the definition of an inertial mass, and what we call the mass. It's
synonymous with what we just referred to as mass, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relativistic mass would be a much muddier concept.
Although the term relativistic mass is now deprecated. You're not supposed to use relativistic mass anymore. Yes, that's very much deprecated now. They went out of fashion about 20 years ago.
Got it.
They just say it's acquiring this extra, and it's more difficult to move, but its mass is not changing. It's I'm not quite sure what they say. It's more energy. That's right. It acquires more energy. And I'm not quite sure what they don't like using relativistic mass anymore. Anyway, so in other words, M0. They always talk about the rest mass now, and they never try and think that the mass is changing. It's just becomes more and more difficult to accelerate as a result of getting more energy.
Right,
but you're right, Scal. There is another definition. I can't remember what it was now, but it's related. But I think it's an inferior definition. But yeah, so you're right. There is another one. I can't remember now what it is.
Well, I mean, the kind of old school way of doing it is just saying that it's the amount of stuff, basically.
Yeah, well, that's wrong. That's completely wrong.
Well, you're chasing turtles, though. I mean, you can always ask what or why in the next level.
Again, we're dealing with people who cannot understand that it requires a force or an acceleration acting on a book to have it fall to the ground. All right. I think the idea that Rumpus brought up of the inertial mass is a real good place to start. You apply a force to the mass. This is how fast the resulting acceleration is. That gives us an idea of what the mass of the object is. I think that's elegant and simple. We can't be talking about, neutrons and crap like that and quarks, because we need to look at an object. What's the mass?
Can I offer a definition that summarizes what the other guy said?
Go ahead.
Mass is the thing that resists acceleration. That's what it is.
That's the definition of inertial mass. Yes.
Yeah.
That's inertial mass. Yeah.
But that's the definition that a flat earther can understand. That's the point I'm making. I'm talking about communicating with laymen.
You have to push a rock for it to move. It doesn't just move on its own the way light moves on its own.
You're presented.
Hey, how'd you enjoy? Sorry about that. I know Rumpus at 78 speed. Look out, right? I think I see mermaids going back in time. These people have no freaking idea what mass is. P.S. The Rumpus, Mr. Air is not the atmosphere, appealed to virtual particles and that nonsense. I want to go to Matt Strassler, theoretical physicist. The best way to approach this concept, I believe, is to forget you ever saw the word particle in the term. A virtual particle is not a particle at all. Like he actually needed to say it. Why don't you look up virtual, for crying out loud? P.S. number 2, the Rumpus, Mr. Air is not the atmosphere, said that defining mass as the amount of matter is incorrect. Right? That's what he said. So, from the prestigious New York University, mass is a measurement of the amount of matter something contains. From encyclopedia.com, mass in physics, the quantity of matter in a body, regardless of its volume or any forces acting on it. From hyperphysics, the mass of an object is a fundamental property of the object, a numerical measure of its inertia, a fundamental measure of the amount of matter in the object. Definitions of mass often seem circular. Yeah, really? We didn't know. And from the chemistry dictionary, mass is a measure of the amount of matter in an object. So, I don't know, you guys have some people in some universities and encyclopedias to tackle here. Unbelievable. All right, continue from the last part. Go ahead and start at 3924. Go slow until 3955 and stop at 4644. You got all those directions?
So, if we're going with the idea of mass being in essence a kind of measure of inertia inherent to an object, if you like, then we move to the space-time thing, right? So when you say space-time, what do you mean by that? Because obviously we're talking about masses bending space-time. So what is space-time?
Okay, so from here you want me to play it fast from 39:55, is it?
I mean, we can regard it as some kind of fabric or substance unto itself. I can't really comment further, though.
Yeah, I don't think we really know. And as I say, I don't think the reason I think that physicists don't like talking about the word gravity being a force is because I don't know what they call the what mass does to the sheet that we visualize occasionally. That bending, what causes that bending? And they're not going to call that gravity. They're going to say the mass is deforming space-time. And then
what is the mechanism by which that occurs?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that mechanism. Yeah, what the hell is that mechanism? And it's not gravity. It's something to do. And this, of course, we haven't the fact that Newton, these breaking the wand is all about this instantaneous reaction, but the fact that in this 4D space-time world, that when you have your sheet and you put two things down, it's actually the bending of space-time that causes the attraction. There's no interaction between the masses to bring them together in this 4D world. It's the fabric of space-time being curved that causes the attraction.
Okay, so this brings us, quite nicely to another point, which is that if mass is a measurement of inertia, and mass can warp space-time, how does a resistance to change or acceleration warp the space around about it if a force isn't involved?
I'm going to fall back. I think it was MC Toon that put it in. I don't care. I care.
That's fair enough, Bob. You're welcome to say that, but all I'm trying to do is see if anybody can chip in and just figure some stuff out. So it's not a test, It's just to see.
That's
where
my
we can
point.
go with
I can't.
It,
It's well above my pay grade. I do not understand space time. I can use Newtonian gravity just fine.
No one understands space time. I mean, that's why we don't have the answer to all of our questions.
That being the case, sorry, did I cut you off there?
Yeah, we have observations. I mean, this goes back to what science is. Science isn't about proving things, it's about observing reality and guessing how it works. I mean, that's essentially what science does. And we guess, and then we test those guess over and over again, and the best guess floats to the top.
And the reason we're confident this space-time is a thing, or at least it's a manifestation of something else that's a thing, but it's very close to what's going on because it makes predictions. This idea of a curved space in a 4D world makes a number of predictions that we can actually test. So, for instance, the bending of light around the sun in 1919, Eddington measured the bending, and it's different from the Newtonian result. It means, and it's by a factor of 2, and he found that the bending of the light around the sun during the eclipse in 1919 agreed with Einstein's prediction. Similarly, the orbit of Mercury behaves in a way that is explained by the space-time model. Similarly, with
extreme quantifiable precision.
Exactly, and also the speed, gravity travels at a particular speed is also predicted by the space-time. All these things Newton's work does not predict. So these are real-world things. It's not like we're guessing at something and then saying, and it could be something else. No, it makes predictions. It has utility.
To any detractor of general relativity, I would like them to explain to me what gravitational lensing is. What is that? Right? I mean, I don't understand what that could possibly be other than the path of light traveling around massive objects.
Yeah, I would highly suggest not proposing open questions to them because they'll just say they're angels, and then they'll show you some.
They won't say they're green pixies, though, right?
Pictures of stars. They'll send you some out-of-focus pictures of stars and say, "See, this is what Jupiter really looks like."
Well, no, or every single image through a telescope is fake.
Yeah, they'll say that. They'll say they don't have any problem saying that.
If we're being honest, I don't. How can you counter that? You know what I mean? You can't really.
There was one famous flat earther who suggested that all the telescopes that have been sold have actually got some electronic processing in them to emulate a spherical world in the stars.
Can I get us back on point real quick? Okay, the questions that you're proposing are: what is gravity? What is space-time? What is light? What is mass? These are names that we give phenomena in the world. That's all there is to it. We have a collection of observations that we know are factual. Every time we look at something that does this, and we give it a name. And so it's actually backwards from the way you're proposing the question is actually backwards from what's actually happening. What's actually happening is we see these sets of observations. We don't know what causes them or why. We give it a name, and then we start proposing ideas of how it could be working under the hood, and then we start testing those ideas.
Excellent point. But that is part of the problem with miscommunication is that people throw these terms around, but never really. If you can't show some kind of understanding behind these terms that you're throwing around, I think that's where you lose ground when you're just communicating in general, or obviously when you're dealing with people who just want to start a semantic fight with you, whatever. But it's
here's the problem
that
people
will use certain terminology and just kind of they think they've just got the right to use it, but somebody else has come up with the term, somebody's come up with the physics behind it, whatever. And if you're using it, I think you should have some understanding of it. I'm not saying you want to be everybody has to be a theoretical physicist. I don't mean it that way, but you have to have some general grasp of it. Or otherwise, why should you be communicating that concept to somebody else if you don't even really know what it is you're talking about? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the problem that we run into with the flat Earth, and Nathan Oakley is famous for this one. How do you know that space is real? Well, we've been there. Oh, you personally have been there because you said we. It's a different definition of the term we. We are talking on this panel. We as humans have been to the moon. It's the same term, but different meanings.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
Hey, Europe.
Bob, we is above your pay grade, sir, so you need to let that one alone. Did you listen to that, folks? They have no friggin' idea what mass or space-time even is. The rumpus, Mr. Air, is not the atmosphere. It's that is gravity, actually the bending of space-time that causes the attraction. There's no interaction between masses to bring them together in this 4D world. We have a problem. At 10:21, the rumpus said Gravity is what we see in our 3D world as mass attracting mass. So I don't know. Mass attracts mass, but there's no interaction between masses? You're going to have a problem there. Even more troubling, if you can believe it. In this 4D world and in our 3D world that you said at 2930, Rumpus, is it too much to ask to pick a friggin' world and stick with it? And where is this 4D world? Soundly had to chime in, Mr. Planet Orleans Parish. What science is? Science isn't about proving things. It's about observing reality and guessing how it works. I mean, that's essentially what science does. And we guess, and then we test the guess over and over again, and the best guess float to the top. So number one, science isn't about proving things, hey? Oh, really? Have you heard the phrases hammering the C4 fire or bashing your own head with a shovel by chance? You need to acquaint yourself with those, son, because I'm going to make you chair of those committees. Experiment from the nature of science and the scientific method. Once the hypothesis has been established, it is time to test it. The process of experimentation is what sets science apart from other disciplines. It leads to discoveries every day. An experiment is designed to prove or disprove the hypothesis. If your prediction is correct, you will not be able to reject the hypothesis. So science isn't about proving things. They just clobbered you. From Dr. Craig Venter, the geneticist of geneticists. You know, there's some things we can do in science in terms of proving certain things in life we discover. You're done right there. Finished. Let's pile on. Scientists using the scientific method have proven water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. That's 1 atmosphere of pressure, 101 kilopascals, or 14.7 psi. Number 2, combustion is a result of oxidation reactions. Number 3, information is only caused by intelligent agency. Number 4, the lack of insulin with type 1 diabetes patients results in diabetic ketoacidosis. Number 5, the lack of vitamin C intake in humans results in scurvy. Number 6, knowledge or the existence of the which path information collapses the wave function. Number 7, the rapid motion and collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes gas pressure. Number 8, magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charge. 9, the Coriolis force is caused by 2 differing frames of reference. One rotating coordinate system, non-inertial, and one non-rotating coordinate system, inertial. Number 10, gluconeogenesis results in the production of glucose from specific non-carbohydrate precursors. These are absolutely true, inviolable, never to be falsified. Got another 500 or so, Mr. Planet Orleans Parish. Interested? B, reification fallacy. Science doesn't do anything, McFly. It's a method. It's not an entity that has volition. Show. Go ahead and advance to 1 hour and 46 minutes and 59 seconds and stop at 1:47:38, please.
Quick shout out to MC Universe again. Satan is artificial intelligence pretending to be God, the creator of the realm. Well, thank you very much for the super chat, MC Universe.
Right. If it changes, it doesn't change everything that measures time. It changes time itself. That's how everything that measures time changes similarly, because time itself is flowing at a different rate. Right. Any mechanical clock, any biological clock, any clock that is conceivable will demonstrate that that time is flowing at a different rate. Right, that was demonstrated as early as putting the precision clocks, one on the ground, one in the plane, send it around the world. The one on the plane, time went a little bit slower for that.
Okay, you're on.
Reification fallacy. Time isn't physical, Mr. Magoo. Time doesn't flow, swim, pole vault, say, jump, run, or do the hokey pokey. To be physical, the something has to have either chemical formula or structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin, or millielectron volts, kcals, or kilojoules. Time isn't a clock, you schmuck. Listen closely. I'm not only going to pummel your dreamland fallacy here, I'm going to eviscerate the fairy tales, special relativity, and general relativity. The three stooges, if you will. Ready? So, relativity, special relativity, and general relativity, via different mechanisms, speed versus gravity, can dilate, bend, or warp time. Primary school falsification. Time is a conceptual relationship between two motions. Specifically, it's based on an alleged single rotation of the Earth on its axis in respect to the sun, a day. It's a concept, i.e. non-physical. It is without chemical formula structure, like I said, charge, mass, momentum, or spin, or millielectron volts, kcals, or kilojoules. It has no dimensionality or orthogonality, no direction or location. You can't put time in a jar and paint it red. I mean, come on now, let's reason together. Can you dilate, bend, or warp non-physical concepts? Is it your contention that if you have poison ivy on the brain, you can scratch it by thinking of sandpaper? Freedom is a concept also. Can you bend that? That which you are using to measure isn't the thing you're measuring. A football field is 100 yards long, but a football field isn't yardsticks. If I bend the yardstick, does the football field bend also? So if something, say, affects cesium atomic clocks, or any modern clock for that matter, does that then ipso facto mean that the Earth's alleged rotation in relation to the sun is affected? These two mythomathematical fairy tales, special relativity and general relativity, were falsified 30 seconds after their respective publications by third graders at recess, for goodness sakes. In total, eat your massive reification fallacies on nuclear steroids. Go ahead and play from 2 hours and 10 minutes. Stop at 2 hours and 39. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 hours and 10 seconds, and stop at 2 hours and 39 seconds, please.
Can I say this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
We don't know what gravity is, like what the underlying mechanism is. We have no idea. We have a set of observations, and we have a model which we think explains it pretty well. But to assume that the model is in fact what reality is doing underneath the hood is a reification fallacy. We can't do that. We can't say that the model won't change and that there might be a better idea at some point in the future.
Okay.
Soundly, we don't know what gravity is, like what the underlying mechanism is. We have no idea. What? It sure sounded like you and everyone else knew what it was and the mechanism about an hour ago. You daft muppet. You said mass attracting mass or space-time bending right here. 1925. You know gravity is, huh? But you said up here we don't know what gravity is. You gonna make up your mind at some point. And the rumpus at 1021. Gravity is what we see in this world, like in our 3D world, as the mass attracting mass. So I don't know, you must not be remembering what you said previously. And now you don't know what it is or the mechanism, huh? Can I ask you something? If evolution is true, then why do we still have GlobeTARDs? And in that same vein, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? True or false? You're a double-speaking moron, Soundly. Number 2, reification fallacy model, which you identified yourself as fallacious in your very next breath. Soundly, we have a model which we think explains it pretty well. But to assume that the model is in fact what reality is doing underneath the hood is a reification fallacy, right? So please forgive me, but I need to ask you, what in the world, dude? You just charging yourself? No problem. I like it. I like those self-indictments. Number 3, but to assume that the model is in fact what reality is doing underneath the hood is a reification fallacy, right? So a model is a reification fallacy, which you just indicted yourself with. Great job. You bum sniffers are finally getting it. But then you say, well, what if the model changes? Well, soundly, if a reification fallacy model changes to another reification fallacy model, it's still kind of a reification fallacy. You didn't solve anything here. Number 4, there might be a better idea at some point in the future. Thanks. Argument to the future fallacy. Soundly, Mr. Planet Orleans Parish, I say this without reservation. The only potential cure I see for your abject buffoonery is a forced lobotomy, sir. Friggin' scary, Holmes. Absolutely scary. And you know what? I'm not going to put this just on Soundly. This whole panel scares the living daylights out of me with your nonsense. If you're not scared out there, you need to get at least self-administer some drug analysis, volunteer for it, or something. Because this is scary, people. And we're not done yet. Start at 2:22:58, stop at 2:23:36.
Dave, we've had the classic question posed to us by Ranty Flat Earth in the chat, which is how can you have a gas pressure next to a vacuum? And he would specifically like yourself to deal with that question.
Sure. Because gravity exists, right? So my favorite is they will cite the second law of thermodynamics without knowing what the second law of thermodynamics is. The second law of thermodynamics has to do with entropy. It is about the dispersion of matter and energy. So a gas will tend to disperse unless it is under the influence of a force.
Yep.
Professor Dave, thank you. For one, because gravity exists, right? That's horse shit. Even if I gave you both Reverend John Michel Cavendish and Einstein gravity, you know, the non-force, but you can think of it as a force, at full force, it will have no effect whatsoever friggin' ever on entropy. Number 2, so my favorite is they will cite the second law of thermodynamics without knowing the second law of thermodynamics. Thank you. A, stereotype fallacy. They, with the accompanying baseless ipsy-dixit bare assertion fallacy. And B, I forgot more about the second law yesterday than you'll ever know, you friggin' window licker. I'm going to smoke you. Essentially, here's the second law of thermodynamics, mathematically speaking. So it's the change of entropy of the universe equals the change of entropy of the system plus the change of entropy of the surroundings is greater than or equal to 0. Now, if you want to state this in words from Ken Lieber text, the second law of thermodynamics can also be stated that all spontaneous processes produce an increase in the entropy of the universe. Basically what this is saying. You can also state it, the change in entropy total equals the change in entropy of the universe equals the change of entropy of the surroundings plus the change of entropy of the system. Now, the entropy change in the surroundings is defined as the change in enthalpy of the system over temperature. So, if the left side of this equation over here is replaced by D, that's Gibbs free energy, the equation becomes this. And P.S., Professor Dave, I'm going to crush your pretender clown balls with this in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Number 3, Professor Dave, the second law of thermodynamics has to do with entropy. It is about the dispersion of matter and energy. This is a correct statement, but you got a problem there, Professor Dave. According to conspiracy cats, the second law of thermodynamics is about the movement of energy, not the movement of matter. So it looks like it's time for some of that science communication for one of your own. Unbelievable. So gas, this is Professor Dave again. So gas will tend to disperse unless it is under the influence of a force. Factually incorrect, Dave. Entropysite.oxy.edu. gas expansion into a vacuum, mixing of ideal gases or liquids, diffusion, effusion, colligative effects, and osmosis. Each fundamentally involves an increase in entropy due to increased dispersion of energy with no change in total energy in the case of ideal substances due to a greater number of microstates for the particular system involved. No caveats in here. It's naked. This is it. There's no unless, right? You just added this from MSU. Make shit up, university. I'm going to clobber you with this stuff here in a few minutes. Please continue from 223.36. Stop at 224.38.
And so I covered this in my last video. The confusion stems from the fact that flat earthers think that vacuums are synonymous with vacuum cleaners. That's basically the crux of the problem here. When in fact vacuums don't suck. So the vacuum of space is not sucking anything into space. If you were to turn gravity off like a light switch, then the atmosphere, the molecules in the atmosphere would drift off into space. But there is a downward force pulling them here, holding them on the Earth, and that is why we see a pressure gradient, right? So I really they cite the second law of thermodynamics to pretend as though they have a basis in science to ask that question, when it's really just a misunderstanding of thermodynamics. And the answer is one word. The answer to the question is gravity. That's it. That's the end of the story, you know.
Okay.
The actual crux of the biscuit here, Dave, is a stereotype fallacy with the invariable conjured baseless ipsy-dixit bare assertion fallacy and a feeble straw man fallacy. The Triple Crown hat trick again. Congrats, Dave. B, begging the question fallacy via red herring fallacy, pressure gradients, right? That's not the subject there, Dave. The question is, how do you have gas pressure without a container? I'll make it simple for you. Which comes first, booger eater Dave? Number one, gas pressure, that is X, or number two, gas pressure gradients, delta X. There can't be a delta X before there's an X. In other words, Kaitis Beta. Before number two, number one must fringing exist. So again, how do you have gas pressure without a container? See, I and everyone on the panel have already refuted your one word, gravity. Skip to 225.35. Stop at 226.23, please.
Honestly, I'd like to take this a little bit further, because it's not just flat earthers who cite the second law of thermodynamics. It's also creationists and things like that. And they try to use it to imply that order cannot be spontaneously created. But this is absurd. Just put water in an ice tray and put it in the freezer. You get an ice cube, right? An ice cube is ordered, right? Why? What is happening? Because spontaneity is not just entropy; it's also enthalpy, right? The electromagnetic force, the attraction between these molecules, is creating the ordered structure spontaneously. Order can arise spontaneously. So this second law of thermo, as just sort of a catch-all, what you're saying can't happen, really just stems from a misunderstanding of that law, plain.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord. You are a certifiable pretender clown retard. Plain and simple. And I'm going to show that right now. Number one, two stereotype fallacies and creationists and things like that. Are creationists things, Dave? So creationists, you're not a creationist, Dave? If not, can you please regale us with your scintillating scientific explanation on how you can stand in direct contradiction with the laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, bum sniffer? And remember when I said I was going to crush your feeble, shriveled up pretender clown balls? That time's right now. Number two, so creationists say that order cannot spontaneously be created. But this is absurd. Put water in an ice tray in the freezer and you can get an ice cube. That's what you said. You megalithic Dunning-Kruger pretender clown retard. A, stereotype fallacy again. B, pathetic and clumsy parroted straw man fallacy, Dave. McFly, order and disorder to describe entropy was scuttled over 20 friggin' years ago. From the entropy site.oxy.edu. This view was broached partially in a previous article that showed disorder was outmoded and misleading as a descriptor of entropy. You don't even know what the second law of thermodynamics is, son. From ChemLibreText. There is no basis in physical science for interpreting entropy change as involving order and disorder, right? Look at all this order. You are clueless, sir. You're dead. Like 4 times dead so far. But we're going to go after you again. Your entire parroted charade of an argument and shriveled up nads are pulverized right here. Make no doubt about it. This is just gravy. From this point on, it's just gravy for me. Now I'm going to take a flamethrower to your self-appointed science acumen, son. See the actual argument in place of the aforementioned pathetic straw man fallacy order. I, a creationist, claim that you can't form functional sequence specified complexity spontaneously. That's my claim. Get my claim right from now on. I.e., those reactions that are delta G positive, that is, they're non-spontaneous. Pro tip, delta G isn't a disco band from the 70s. Just FYI. D, your little friggin' ice formation is merely a simple phase transition. That is delta G negative. That is spontaneous. All natural phase transitions are spontaneous. I mean, you're not actually saying anything here. You're saying a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, basically. So, your water freezing example and your little ice tray in your freezer, let's take a look at ChemLibreText. Water freezing is delta G negative, right? I quote, let us now consider a different phase change, such as water freezing. When water freezes, the molecules in the liquid start to aggregate and form hydrogen bonding interactions with each other. And energy is released to the surroundings. Remember, it is this energy that is responsible for increasing the entropy of the surroundings. Therefore, the change in enthalpy is negative. Freezing is an exothermic process. That is, delta H fusion equals negative 6 kilojoules per mole. Freezing is also a process that reduces the system's entropy. When water molecules are constrained, as in ice, their positional entropy is reduced. So water freezing is a process that is favored by the change in enthalpy and is disfavored by the change in entropy. As the temperature falls, the entropy term contributes less to delta G. And eventually, at the crossover point, delta G fusion goes to 0 and then becomes negative. The process becomes thermodynamically favored. It's spontaneous. No issues. You're a clown. Duh. In conclusion, your science acumen is woefully juvenile, hovering around 2nd grade, and your basic reasoning skills are even worse. This is what we got a case here, ladies and gentlemen. We got a case of Elmer Fudd pretending to be Richard Feynman. Clearly. Quick play. Rumpus wants to get in on the act. 2:43:39. Stop at 2:43:52.
Years to play with to do it, and there's a lot of energy in the system. We know that, and as opposed to second law thermodynamics, if you've got lots of energy coming to the system, your entropy decreases and you create order. And part of this creation of order is life.
Thank you. Right? We got another order monkey. Hey, and as opposed to the second law of thermodynamics, you got lots of energy coming in. How does lots of energy coming into the system oppose the second law of thermodynamics? What a clown. Let's stick with the order, right? We just did this. This is going to be rinse repeat. So, McFly, order and disorder describe entropy as scuttled 20 friggin' years ago. From the entropy site, oxy.edu, the view was broached partially in a previous article that showed disorder was outmoded and misleading as a descriptor for entropy. And from Chem Libretext, there is no basis in physical science for interpreting entropy change as involving order and disorder. Thank you very much, Rumpus. You guys just beat yourselves over the head with a shovel. I love it. All we have to do is let yourselves talk, right? You need to have more hangouts. Number 2, increasing the energy of the system, you mean from the sun. The sun is the greatest entropy generator the world has ever seen. You retard. Midsummer in Texas. Leave a tire on the tractor out in the sun, it'll burn it clean off. It's not protected. It'll do the same to the roof of your house or the roof of your car. We all know this. And you're a perfect candidate for my skivvies experiment. Rumpus, this is what we want you to do. We want you to take the next flight out of London or wherever you're at, probably in your 4D world. We want you to travel to Texas, Florida, or Hawaii. And what we want you to do is we want you to lay out, that is in your skivvies underwear, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day for a week. Now, we're going to give you food and water. We don't want you to vapor lock. So from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And we want you to tell us at the end of the week, after you get out of the hospital, whether your skin has increased or decreased in entropy. Wow. 3, create life. Where'd you get matter without knowledge of the witch path information, bum sniffer? See, quantum mechanics, we could essentially stop right here. I could stop, but where's the fun in that? B, listen closely. Functional DNA, RNA, and proteins never spontaneously form naturally outside already existing cells from sugars, bases, phosphates, and aminos, respectively. It's physically and chemically impossible. That's just the hardware. To refute, please show a functional 30-mer RNA or protein, most are 250 amino acids or larger, that forms spontaneously, naturally, outside a living organism from sugars, bases, phosphates, and aminos, respectively. Cite source, please. The smallest functional DNA genome is a little over 100,000 nucleotides, so that ain't happening. Conclusion from the grand poobahs of Origin of Life Research, Gerald F. Joyce and Leslie Orgel. We conclude that the direct synthesis of nucleotides or nucleotides from prebiotic precursors in reasonable yield and unaccompanied by larger amounts of related molecules could not be achieved by presently known chemical reactions. It's a lot worse. We're going to get to that. Do you know the reasons why that is? Of the approximately 50 obstacles precluding the natural spontaneous formation, what are the 2 elephants in the room here? Again, Dr. Leslie Orgel, last published words literally after more than 50 years of Origin of Life research. He is Origin of Life research. People have quoted him, right? He worked with Watson and Crick and Stanley Miller. He's a legend. Right before he died, he said this in PLOS Biology. However, solutions offered by supporters of geneticist or metabolist scenarios that are dependent on if pigs could fly, hypothetical chemistry are unlikely to help. Just in case you are wondering, geneticist and metabolist scenarios up here, geneticist means DNA and RNA first, metabolist means proteins first, just to be clear. So, Rumpus, after showing us pigs flying, Mr. Air is not the atmosphere, then the woolly T-Rex in the room. This isn't even the big guy yet. This is, how did stupid atoms write their own software? In other words, show how ink, paper, and glue molecules can author technical instruction manuals and blueprints. The analogy here is the ink, paper, and glue molecules is ribose, nucleobases, and activated phosphates. The technical instruction manual and blueprints is DNA. Get it? So, Paul Davies, professor of physics, member of the Arizona State Origins Project, DNA is not a special life-giving molecule, but a genetic data bank that transmits its information using a mathematical code. Most of the workings of the cell are best described not in terms of material stuff, hardware, but as information or software. Trying to make life by mixing chemicals in a test tube is like soldering switches and wires in an attempt to produce Windows 98. It won't work because it addresses the problem at the wrong conceptual level. Duh. Let's hear your answers, Mr. Air is not the atmosphere pretender clown. All right, let's head back to Dave and give him the death blow. Play 242.22, stop at 243.06.
Hey, Dave, are you going to say something?
No, I just, my only contribution is wherever possible, I like to try my best to explain to lay people the mechanisms by which abiogenesis absolutely could have happened. We don't know what happened, but a lot of people try to present the idea that it is impossible. It's definitely not impossible. It just, to understand how it could have happened requires reasonable amount of knowledge in organic chemistry and biochemistry and biology. So I try to teach that whenever possible, but certainly we don't know precisely what happened, of course. But I just like to show, here are some things that may have happened, and it's not as outlandish as people suggest, right?
You're presented.
So a reasonable amount of knowledge of organic chemistry, biochemistry, and biology, eh? I'm your Huckleberry, son. That's just my game. Let's go with functional proteins first. Of the approximate 500 amino acids known, 23 of them are the alpha amino acids. All life requires and exclusively uses the 20 essential alphas. Number 1, Dave, please show and cite source of the natural formation of all 20 essential alphas from their building blocks. This is one of their dirty little secrets you never hear about. It's really quite mind-numbing. But they know they can whistle past the graveyard because of the utter ignorance and blind face of their bum-sniffing target audience. We can, in fact, stop right here, but where's the fun in that? Number 2, once you get all the alphas naturally, and you won't, amino acids exist naturally as stereoisomers, enantiomers, a 50-50 mix, racemic mixtures, mirror images, chiral, left-handed and right-handed. But life exclusively uses left-handed aminos. There are exceptions, but not material and outside the scope of our discussion here. To be functional proteins, you not only need their primary structure, that's the proper sequence, but form, secondary structure. The form equal function motif. One right-handed amino acid in the chain compromises the secondary structure, aka that equals a football bat. In every single origin of life research paper, the amino acids, proteins, and sugars, we're going to get to that here in a minute. Take a look at the materials and methods section, their other dirty little secret. You'll find every single time the word purification or equivalent, or they just friggin' start with the oligomers, right? The former, they sequestered if proteins, then left-handed amino acids are chosen. If sugars, then right-handed ones are chosen. Before they even start in the a priori fairy tale, this is so far beyond unacceptable investigator interference and proves the need for intelligent agency. You can't have intelligent scientists, alleged scientists, messing with this thing because that's not your worldview. Your worldview is nature did it. You can't have any intelligent interference. It train wrecks your arguments. Duh. Number 3, the delta G for polymerization of amino acids to form polypeptides is positive. That is non-spontaneous, Davy. From Texas A&M University, if a reaction is unfavorable for both enthalpy and entropy changes, then the reaction will be non-spontaneous at any temperature. The change in enthalpy is positive equals endothermic. That's unfavorable for spontaneity. And the change in entropy is negative. That is unfavorable for spontaneity, Davy. Protein synthesis, along with DNA and RNA synthesis, are guess what? are all endothermic, that is, enthalpy is greater than zero and entropy is less than zero. All of it is non-spontaneous. This is the elephant in the room. You're done right here. I don't need to go any further. I just stop and laugh and just wait for you to bring me some of these guys, right? Or peptide bond formation is condensation reactions. That is, peptide bonds won't form in water from both a thermodynamic and kinetic point of view. Peptide bonds won't form between two Zwitter ions. This is the form they're found in aqueous environments. You're finished just with protein. That is functional proteins. You'd have better chances resurrecting Alexander the Great's horse and attempting even a cogent explanation of how this could be in galactic universe of possibility, let alone actually physically, chemically forming a 30-mer functional protein naturally. You can't even make the stories a joke. And this is even before we discuss primary structure, sunlight, which destroys amino acids and nucleobases, mono and bifunctional moieties, pH cross reactions, Brownian motion, hydrolysis, and oxidation. I suppose this is what the grand poobah of origin of life research, Dr. Leslie Orgel, was referring to above when he said in his last documented words, like I said before, if pigs could fly, hypothetical chemistry. This is a joke, people. This is a joke. Anyone knows, even a freshman biochemist knows this. Functional RNA and DNA from the grand poobahs again, Joyce and Orgel. Scientists interested in the origins of life seem to be divided neatly into two classes. The first, usually but not always, molecular biologists believe that RNA must have been the first replicating molecule and that chemists are exaggerating the difficulties of nucleotide synthesis. They believe that a few more striking chemical surprises will establish that a reasonable approximation to a racemic version of the molecular biologist pool could have formed on the primitive Earth, and that further experiments with different activating groups and minerals will solve the enantiomeric cross-inhibition problem. Right? This isn't even the elephant in the room. We're going to get to that. The second group of scientists are much more pessimistic. They believe that the de novo appearance of oligonucleotides on the primitive Earth would be near a miracle. The authors, that is Gerald Joyce and Leslie Orgel, subscribe to this view. A miracle. It ain't happening, folks, because it violates a number of laws and principles. This, like I said, this is bad as it is for the Pretendicon bum sniffers, isn't the elephant in the room. We already talked about with the elephant in the room. Let's go over it again. This is the elephant. Delta G for the nucleosides wickering themselves together from bases and sugars is positive. That's red, non-spontaneous. As is the phosphorylation into nucleotides, along with 50 other or so crucial reactions from the building blocks. Like I just said, sunlight is a severe demonstrable antagonist to all of it and it destroys nucleobases and amino acids. Then that's not even speaking to, again, primary structure, stereoisomerization, hydrolysis, Brownian motion, oxidation, pH, mono, biofunctional moieties, the cross reactions from here to Christmas. This is over. I'd also like to see the precursors for those bases, the purines and the pyrimidines, all natural, like within the constraints of the second law. This is a clown show. Here's some cowbell for you. From the Journal of Biomolecular Structure and Dynamics. Like I was talking about before with nucleosides and nucleotides, they're all delta G positive. The systems consist of pairs of DNA and RNA components, nucleosides and nucleotides in aqueous solution, where all conformational factors are fully controlled. This approach allowed us to describe the thermodynamic cycle and measure its fundamental parameters, equilibrium constants and free energy differences, the change in delta G from a nuclear magnetic resonance study. The change in delta G values as determined for pairs of ribo and deoxyribonucleosides in classes of syn-constrained and anti-preferred models are comparable and lie in a narrow range from the change in delta G to what? 1.7 plus or minus 0.1 kilojoules per mole. You're dead. They've been dead for 50 years. They've known this. They've just stringed these guys out from generation to generation. That's all they're going to do. This is positive delta G. It's impossible. It's physically and chemically impossible to even form nucleosides. This is a joke. We're not even talking about information yet. We're just in the physiochemical world. This is the problem. This is one of my favorites. I get a little tear in my eye from years past, reminiscing, because I would pound philosophical naturalist, evolution, and materialist with this. I'd be waiting for it, right? I'd put it out there. I'd be laughing at them, and they would just post what they'd do. They'd type their nonsense into Wiki and post the first thing that came up, right? And they'd post this: generation of long RNA chains in water. They'd just post it. They wouldn't read the study. They just read the headline. Typical with news headlines, what happens, right? These are pseudoscience headlines. But in regular headlines in secular society, usually it's entirely different. If you read the story, it doesn't match the headline. No difference here. Let's take a look at this. The Journal of Biological Chemistry. The origin of informational polymers is not understood. Yeah, I would say so. The RNA polymerization process has been studied for 5 decades. The results showing that from pre-activated precursors, polymers of several tens can be obtained, as reviewed previously. They're full of crap. Pre-activated, that's why. They interfered with it. These pioneering studies provide the proof of principle, the principle of intelligent agency, that RNA precursors can self-assemble, yielding linear polymers. Yeah, sure. However, the prebiotic validity of a process based on complex pre-activation procedures is limited. Yeah, red non-existence. And the problem of defining a prebiotically plausible chemical and thermodynamic scenario for the synthesis and accumulation of informational polymers remains open. Listen closely, folks. Here comes the ringer. The core of the problem is the standard state gives free energy. Yeah, that's what I've been telling you. Stating that condensation reactions are very inefficient in water. Yeah, no duh. Given that extant polymerizations occur in water, this is a major difficulty, only partially solved by the fact that these processes at present occur inside the active site of enzymes, proteins. Where'd you get them? Where water activity may be drastically reduced. Yeah, in the ribozyme. Where'd you get those 2 parts? The other part of extant solution, fruit of evolution, whatever that is the use of, there it is, biologically highly pre-activated triphosphate nucleotides. Where'd you get them? What happened about the nucleosides? How'd you get ribose? Number 3, in Primordia, RNA molecules had no enzymes. Yeah, duh. To catalyze their chain-wise growth, and highly activated precursors can be considered as prebiotic only with difficulty. Yeah, only in Alice in Wonderland. God, these people are clowns. They tell you right here, but you can't see it. Why? Because you're a pretender clown. You don't know what you're reading. You don't know what the second law of thermodynamics is. It kills it right there. I don't even have to get into information. I'll touch on it briefly. So number 1, please show site source of one functional RNA 30 mer or larger that's wickered itself together outside a living cell or organism naturally and spontaneously from ribose nucleobases and activated phosphates. Call Jack Shostak and ask him. I hope you have free long distance. When he just clicks, just call him back again. Friggin' clown. Number 2, we beat this to death. The delta G for nucleosides wickering themselves together from sugars and nucleobases is positive, as is the phosphorylation into nucleotides. It's over right here. Number 3, sugars ribose exist naturally, just like proteins or amino acids, as stereoisomers and antimers. It's the same argument. A 50-50 mix, racemic mixture, mirror images, chiral, left-handed and right-handed. But life exclusively uses right-handed sugars. To have functional RNA, you not only need their primary structure, sequence, but form secondary structure, form equal function. One left-handed sugar in the chain compromises secondary structure. That means you got a football bat. Let's listen to Leslie Orgel again tell you about it. Equally disappointing, we can induce copying of the original template only when we run our experiments with nucleotides. Where'd you get nucleotides from? Having a right-handed configuration. All nucleotides synthesized biologically today are right-handed. Yet on the primitive Earth, equal numbers of right-handed and left-handed nucleotides would have been present. What's primitive Earth? Where'd you get that? When we put equal numbers of both kinds of nucleotides in our reaction mixtures, copying was inhibited. That means it didn't happen. This is a joke. It's not even the elephant in the room. Number 4, in most cases for RNA to function, it also has to form secondary structures, like I said, which are also conformational and mediated by functional proteins. That means you have to have ribose and proteins, right? Ribosomal RNA, RNA polymerase, microRNA, small nuclear RNA, small cytoplasmic RNA. All these are ribonucleoprotein complex. Where'd you get the proteins? Then where'd you get the ribose or the nucleosides? Then nucleotides. This is a joke, biochemically speaking. And like I said, the elephant in the room is information. We didn't even talk about that yet. The N-glycosidic bonds along the backbone of RNA and DNA are chemically indeterminate. That is, any base can attach. Therefore, the meaning is coming from outside the physical-chemical forces and structure of the molecules, respectively. It's that easy. Again, Paul Davies, DNA is not a special light-giving molecule, but a genetic data bank that transmits its information using a mathematical code. Most of the workings of a cell are best described not in terms of material stuff, hardware, but as information or software. Trying to make life by mixing chemicals in a test tube is like soldering switches and wires in an attempt to produce Windows 98. It won't work because it addresses the problem at the wrong conceptual level. Number 6, you have to be able to show where the information is. Pull out some DNA with a microscope and show us the information. Show me where you got amino acyl tRNA synthetase from. I want to see it in DNA. It'll be like showing the friggin' social security number of the Keller Yellow. Best wishes, since information is semiotic. This collapses, like I said, the whole fairy tale before you start. All the above is laughingly academic anyways, because remember when I started? Where'd you get all the matter from without knowledge of the witch bath information, bum sniffers? See quantum mechanics. In conclusion, you're all demonstrated pretender clown bum sniffers who collectively couldn't pass 5th grade general science or a 60-level basic reasoning course. If you, as the GlobeTARD brain trust, are abject morons, which you are, I just demonstrated that, then your subordinate members of the rank and file spinning space monkey congregations have no hope. By the way, the logical fallacy count, I reviewed 32 minutes of this 3-hour presentation. All those time hacks come out to roughly 32 minutes. I counted 46 logical fallacies. That's 1.4 fallacies per minute. Timmy Clown was just hovering around 1 fallacy per minute. So Timmy Clown, you can hold your head up high. Your priests are smashing it. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day. But P.S. Are we ready? Listen, yesterday when I was tweaking this presentation, the final tweaks, somebody had to send me a video, Ranty's video, of Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy. They had to do it, right? Had to interrupt me. So, and I got in late, and all I heard him talking about was the stupid gyro compass. Just because gyro compass, that means the Earth's spinning. This 2015 nonsense. So we're going to go ahead. Let's pummel Bob one more time. I mean, he's like twice and 3 times dead. But let's go ahead and do it anyway. Nathan, go ahead and play that. That's from 1607 and stop at 1617, please.
And here is an example of a Sperry gyrocompass.
Okay, ladies, it's time to line
Oh,
up.
sorry.
Claire
Advert.
ordered her bouquet today at 21:40.
These are marine compasses. They do not rely on the magnetic poles of the Earth to find true north.
That's fine. Is it up?
Yep.
So Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy, Mr. Cygnus Octaris, that's where he said in this presentation, he said that. It's so funny. So this is what he said. And here's an example of this very gyro compass. These are marine compasses. They do not rely on magnetic poles of the Earth to find true north. I nearly fell off the chair, right? Like I need to provide citation for this. I mean, anyone that's done any land navigation knows what the score is here. I'm gonna do it. It took me less than a minute, right? So, gyro compasses. This is how stuff works. Gyro compass. A spinning gyro compass, if supported in a gimbaled frame and spun up, will maintain the direction it is pointing toward, even if the frame moves or rotates. In a gyro compass, this tendency is used to emulate a magnetic compass. At the start of the trip, the axis of the gyro compass is pointed toward north using what? Magnetic compass, we all know this. You said they don't rely on this magnetic. Yes, they do. That's how they know to point north. A motor inside the gyro compass keeps the gyroscope spinning, so the gyro compass will continue to point toward north and will adjust itself swiftly and accurately, even if the boat is in rough seas or the plane hits turbulence. Periodically, the gyro compass is checked against what? Well, the only thing it can be checked against, the magnetic compass, to correct any error and it might pick up. I mean, let me explain this. So a gyro compass is set at the start of the trip by a magnetic compass, Bob. They then convert magnetic north, that's the azimuth, to true north. It's very simple. You use magnetic declination. See the map legend. And depends on your start location. The gyro compass is also checked for accuracy periodically during the trip with a magnetic compass, Bob. Why and how? Well, number one, to ensure accuracy, especially over long distances. Why? Because your magnetic declination changes. Over short distance, it's no big deal. But if you're in the Navy and you're traveling across the ocean, you need this. You need to change it. You need to check this periodically. They add or subtract the magnetic declination from the magnetic azimuth to get true north. Cue it up. Cue it up. Many modern compasses have a built-in magnetic declination. That means adjustment and procedures. Many of them do nowadays. Bob's a certifiable bum-sniffing retard. Oh, and by the way, there's only one magnetic pole, Bob. Cue him up. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day.
Okay, so I'm going to get hold of, hopefully, the actual Ballbusters team now on Skype and then take a few comments from the Discord server as well. So there is a link below this video if you do want to have at least a small part of the live show, and there will be an after show to follow, again, with the Discord server and hopefully the rest of the Ballbusters team. So that's precisely what I'm going to do now. Hopefully I'll get hold of them in the meantime. So, yeah, a massive shout out. I think there was one last shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchor, who said to shout out Ron Burgundy. So, yeah, I suppose shout out to Ron Burgundy, as that's perfectly reasonable, having had a super chat specifically for just that. So, hopefully, that was an excellent presentation, by the way, John. Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Shout out to Sam Hine for smashing the super chat. He says, Nathan, please tell QE that I love him. Purely platonic. No response. Thank you for the super chat, Sam Hine.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I love you too. Just get in line, man. The line's long.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so we're also joined by Chocolate Saiyan, Sleeping Warrior. I think we've also got lots of background noise.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Yo, yo.
Hello, hello.
Let me just say something really quick, and then I'll drop because I'm not in an ideal situation at the minute for chatting. This gravity not being a force thing, it absolutely kills their arguments, because if gravity is not a force, even if you treat it as a force, it's still not a force. It means that they've got no explanation for why the waters of the oceans stick to the outside of a ball. They've got no explanation for why the atmosphere doesn't immediately burst off into the vacuum of space. And it also means that they've got no explanation whatsoever for what's causing the tides. As we're told, it's caused by the moon and its gravitational pull. If gravity is not a force, none of them things are attributable to gravity, but all of them are required to live on a ball. So basically, the ballers can't explain anything if gravity is not a force. And we need to keep beating it, because this drum is killing their model, and it's dying very quickly and very efficiently. So shout outs to everybody that thinks gravity is a force, because it's not.
Good stuff. Who else have we got on the line? Have we got Paula?
Yeah, it's one of those days when you show up for work and they tell you to come back 6 hours later, but it's all good. And
My
I
bad.
think overall, the problem, I think, is that mainstream science keeps changing what's true today. You know, that may not be true tomorrow, and nobody can keep up on either side half the time. And that's, I mean, those were two of the courses I took in college, physics courses. One was 7 Ideas That Shook the Universe. And what that means is that they keep changing their whole paradigm. And this is nothing new. They're trying it again, only they're confusing themselves, I think, with their own terms.
Absolutely. Spot on. Or, what is it, MSU University?
Yeah, pretty much.
We've got Betty. Oh, another shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchor. Says, Sam Hine is a legend. I agree. $50 super chat. Thank you very much to Eagle Plane and Anchor. And Sam. You there, Betty? Maybe not. No Betty on the line. Who else have we got? Chocolate saying.
Hello, hello.
Silky smooth today for BALLBUSTERS. Lovely to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's your first time, right? Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes,
First time
sir.
having Chocolate saying on here. He certainly makes an impression on the debate each day, and indeed on Iron Realm Media. Superb, superb. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
And with
Appreciate
that,
it.
no, I'm only joking.
And with that.
Who else
Well,
have we
I
got?
mean, you might as well say that, because, I mean, these guys have literally just destroyed themselves. I mean, I watched this hangout in its entirety, and it was just a stunning thing to watch, as these guys just danced around and backflipped and did all the mental gymnastics that they can to try to explain all this, and they can't, and it's beautiful. So
Did it meet your expectations?
yeah. I think there was you probably could have gone even more, but we're already been here a few hours, so I get it. But yeah, they really just destroyed themselves, man. It's just too funny.
Yeah,
Man, good job.
there was over an hour and 20 minutes that I didn't deal with. I couldn't, because it would be too long. They were talking about gravity waves and dark matter and stuff. I couldn't deal with that.
Right.
Like I said, for time constraints. So yeah, hour and 20 minutes, somewhere in that vicinity.
But yeah, good job, brother.
I will say, while you're right, they do put the noose around their neck. John's like a hangman with 6 sets of gallows, and he's there kicking out all the stools. So another shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchor. He says, can we call in the episode on Discord? Can we call in? I don't really understand what you mean. Can we call in the episode on Discord? I will call in the Discord people in a minute once we've rounded out anybody else who's on this BALLBUSTERS call. Have I missed anybody? Because I can't actually see who's in the call.
I don't think you have. It's Paula and Chocolate, me and you. I think Anthony had to go.
Oh, perfect. Well, in that case, I'll open
the midgets were calling them.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I've opened up all the lines for everybody in Discord, so if anybody's got anything to add, I've got about 10 minutes before I round out this live show, and then we will chat further in the after show. Lots and lots of background noise going on from the rumpus.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I just thought QE just demonstrated he's a complete and utter moron yet again, and can't even understand the most basic bits of science. I thought it was an amazing demonstration of embarrassing comments there.
Generalized faceless assertion fallacy. Give us some cowbell or shut up.
Well, I mean, God, I didn't make any notes of all the things. I mean, almost everything you said was wrong. Let's try
almost everything. Yeah, hand wave dismissal.
Pick on your strongest criticism, QE, and I'll pull you apart.
Yeah, you're done, Rumpus. You're finished, Mr. Order. You don't even know what the second law of thermodynamics is.
This point you've just made, and I'll destroy your rebuttal.
You couldn't destroy a soup sandwich. You need to be institutionalized.
Hold on, before the back and forth in that regard starts, there was a full presentation just given.
Okay, well, I'll pick a subject then. If he's reluctant to pick on one of his subjects, I'll pick on one. Space-time. He doesn't understand that space-time is 4D. The fact that this seemed to be alien to him, yet he was prepared to talk about it at length, about not understanding what 4D is, and also in terms of space-time, not realizing they're the same thing, is just extraordinary.
Let's just test that. So, do you understand the concept of length, breadth, depth, and time? Or is it pseudo-Riemannian force space? Is that something beyond you, QE?
I understand the concept. It's just not real. Rumpus he was talking about two worlds, a 4D world and a 3D world. Which one do we live in, Rumpus?
We live in a 3D world, though we can't perceive the fourth dimension of time. We just move along with it. So the space-time world that Einstein was describing is the 4D world, okay? So that shouldn't have needed to be explained to you, but I'll do it now. So space...
Sorry.
So there's two worlds.
Sorry?
So there's two worlds.
So, well, we are in a projection from this space-time thing that Einstein described, which was called to be four-dimensional. That's 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And Einstein's predictions include, for instance, the orbit of well, for a start, he never disagreed with Newton, which you claimed he did.
Yes, he did. We don't want monologues here. We want cowbell. And the prosecution rests, right? Because there's no two different worlds we live in. The only projection is your coherency.
Yeah, we got clarity. So Rumpus makes it clear. We live in a 3D world. Einstein's describing something completely different, though, isn't he? A world with 4 dimensions.
That's right. This 4D world,
This 4D world, let's just get some clarity about that. We've already got double speak. We've only had about, what, 2.5 minutes from him? So this 4D world, do you mean this 4D world?
We live in a 3D world.
So no, you don't mean this 4D world then, do you, Rumpus?
What? There is a...
Yeah, you stuttering, stammering buffoon. End of your conversation here, moron. Bye-bye. So, who else we got in Discord? Anybody else got anything to chime in? Got about 5 minutes left on this live broadcast. We will chat to you all. We'll open all of your mics when it comes to the after show. Any more for any more?
He probably didn't like my skivvies experiment.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully he'll take part in the skivvies experiment. We shall see.
Appealing to a dimension you can't see, doesn't exist, can't test, is pretty pathetic, I think.
Yeah,
if that's how you answer the question. Sorry.
Conceptual, absolutely right, Paula. Pretty pathetic. Reification fallacy. Any more Discord server people? We've got a new guest, I think. Jose Mazza, I know. Playing. Everyone's off mute. Feel free to chime in. Last word, if you like, Rumpus.
by Newton's laws and can be explained by treating the world as a 4D world of which we are a 3D projection. Similarly, the bending of light, the speed with which gravity travels is also explained by general relativity, which we cannot account for by just giving a 3D consideration. Also, QE got all confused about the deformation of space-time and the fact that I'm saying that mass doesn't attract mass in the 4D world. No, it doesn't. It's the fabric of space-time. It's the curvature of space-time that causes us to move, and it's the mass in that world that causes the space-time to curve. And he's got completely confused.
Show the experiment.
Well
Show
said.
the experiment. Walk us through it.
What's the experimental validity that comes along with that assertion, Rumpus?
Right, because by why are you interrupting me? Right, so the consideration of the Jesus Christ, will you shut up, whoever it is?
No one interrupted you.
Right, I'm trying to give an answer to the question. Right. So you're asking me what experimental evidence we've got for this 4D world. This 4D world makes a number of predictions. One, the bending of light around gravity. Oh, Jesus Christ. Can I finish a sentence? Right, so
I want you to walk us through it.
Yeah, we asked for the experimental validity, and you're already telling us with doublespeak how a 4D world is a 3D world. And you're saying the 3D world isn't good enough to explain stuff in the 4D world, but we don't live in the 4D world or concern ourselves with how complex the explanations aren't sufficient with 3D worlds that we actually live in when it comes to your 4D world reification. That's not that important. So, who cares? But, I don't know, there must be somebody else in Discord that wants to add something other than Rumpus, maybe?
Well,
Dougie.
we can go through. We can
Hold
go
on 1
through
second.
it with them.
Sorry, hold on. Don't want to. We've only got 2 or 3 minutes left. Go ahead, Dougie.
Okay.
I was just saying, Rumpus were literally just explaining it, and you're just talking over him. I don't understand if you can hear or not, or if you can hear him. I don't know.
Yeah, we hear him all right.
You just muted him on purpose. I mean, you are quite quiet for me as well, so.
I'm quite quiet.
It might be on my end.
Right, Rumpus
Rumpus
seems to
were
think
talking
that...
through Mike and you guys were talking at the same time.
You see, Rumpus has explained that we have a 3D reality. That's how we actually experience the world. But there's a problem using 3D reality to explain the 4D world. But we also established with Rumpus that we don't live in a 4D world. Was that not coming through clear on the Discord server? Yeah, we don't live in a 4D world. That's an Einsteinian world. The world perhaps you live in, I'm guessing you think the world's a sphere. Am I right?
Yeah, man, I'm not going to debate you on this. I'll leave it to someone who knows what they're talking about.
Really? Like what, like Rumpus? Oh, he seems to think you live in a 4D world, my friend, even though you don't live in a 4D world. That wasn't clear enough on Discord, then I'll make that absolutely abundantly clear. You fantasist fundies think you live in an Einsteinian world. That's a reification fallacy. You don't live in a 4D world, you live in a 3D world. That was made clear by Rumpus. So, I don't know what you think needs explaining. Maybe the model that you reify needs explaining better to you. I understand, we don't live on a model. Any problems? Maybe bleat that I didn't let Rumpus talk enough? Explaining how we can't explain a 4D model with a 3D actual world that we live in? Bleat some more, my friend. You've got 2 minutes.
Well, maybe we can have him in the after show walk us through the experiment.
Yeah, that's what we actually asked for, my friend. And then he said that the model makes predictions. Those are his first words. That's where we cut him off. Shut that shit right down. Because we don't give a crap about his model and its explanations. We asked for scientific validity. Maybe you'd like to bleat. You seem to have gone very quiet, Dougie.
Oh, I said I'm not debating you. I'm just listening in.
I'm not debating you. You were complaining about him being shut up. And you're saying you don't want to debate.
No,
I heard
you
that.
were
I'm not
explaining
deaf.
something. Sorry.
Yeah,
We don't need explanation, son. We need experiments. No just so stories. We need him to walk us through the scientific method. I'm not going to listen to any of his monologues. We need cowbell. I got a fever, and the only cure is cowbell. Got it?
With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, most importantly, to QE for making this presentation possible. An absolute demolition of all the fundies. Oh, I got another super chat right at the end, so a massive shout out to, I can't read it with my lights on, I think it's Grave Lodger 1. Thank you very much. I always enjoy a QE presentation. Great work, sir. Absolutely and totally agree. Again, a massive thank you to QE for making this presentation possible. Of course, a huge thank you to all of you in the live audience for tuning in, hopefully sharing, subscribing, smashing the super chat, all that good stuff. A massive thank you to all of today's limited, although it was, Discord server for making the public interaction part of this server. Stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, as this after show will continue after the end credits have rolled. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next Ballbusters.